I mean, I understand how passionate you are for the game, and that's great, but your passion tends to spill over into lunacy, idiocy, and stupidity. And that's why you are indefinitely suspended. And again, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. You have no business committing the antics that you have committed, especially 2 years ago, coming off of a championships, coming off of a championship year. Okay, coming off of a championship year. And on top of that, some of the antics you committed, especially the chokehold on Rudy Gobert, that should have netted you an indefinite suspension then, because your reputation precedes you for being an idiot at times. A complete and utter idiot. A complete and utter fool. Now I know you've begun your charity work and your rehab work, and I don't begrudge that at all. I don't. You need it. You need to calm down. You need to be focused. You need to be focused, man. How does this look in front of your teammates when you're one of the stalwarts of the team getting suspended indefinitely? How does this look in front of your family when you're one of the stalwarts and you're getting suspended indefinitely? I know how my family would look at me. They would look at me like I was a fool for being stupid, for being absolutely stupid. And you strike Yusuf Nurkic in the face, okay, along with the job you had against Rudy. Man, quit. I'll let it what my wife says. Quit that ish. This is not wrestling. This is the National Basketball Association. Though the quality has fallen, this is the NBA, man. And your teammates are depending on you to be there for them so they can execute basketball in the most beautiful style. Granted, the Warriors need some bigs to compete. You know, Nikola Jokic, hello. Got to compete with him. Got to compete with the world champion Nuggets. And I proudly say world champion Nuggets because I'm glad to see them win it all. But until you clean up your act and get back on the floor where the Warriors need you, the Warriors are stuck. This is your mess, Draymond Green, and it's your fault that you put yourself in this situation, and you had no business putting yourself in this situation by being effing stupid. What the hell were you thinking with some of the antics you pulled this early in the season? We're coming up to Christmas and the Warriors need you. You understand me? They need you on the floor. You're more productive on the floor than off it. It's been proven for 12 years. And you want to do that? You moron. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? My gracious. Clean up your act, Draymond Green, will you please? And hurry up, clean up your act and get back on the floor and concentrate on the floor. Victor posed a question to me, and now it's coming true. Have the Warriors been flirting with fire with Draymond Green's antics in the earlier season? Yep, and they got burned up. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try to execute a trade before the trade deadline. Here's the problem. Who's going to take that contract on? Who's going to take the antics on? Draymond Green, it is best that you stay in San Francisco with the Warriors and retire with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry when they hang him up. Quit being a bully, man. Quit being stupid. The Warriors need you. This is a plea on the part of a fan and an insider. All right? I'm an insider for my own network. The Warriors need you. You're more effective on the floor than off it. I'll say it again. You're more effective on the floor than off it. You have a plethora of knowledge to offer some young folks and one who is eventually going to be your successor. Quit being stupid. Okay? Just quit being freaking stupid. Because if you don't quit being stupid, the Warriors are going to miss the playoffs, and it's going to be your fault. Everything's going to be pointed right at your eyes, and people are going to be poking fingers at your chest because you were too damn stupid to keep your head together. Good Lord. Get it together, Draymond Green. Please. Please. Get back to where you were a few years ago when you weren't being this stupid, out of control bully. And you were just playing basketball with two of the best in the business. Please, I beg of you, take this reality check, put it in your mind, and get your act together. Whew. Now that I got that off my chest, I have a few things to say about the Chargers. And I'll say it correctly, the San Diego Chargers. Brandon Staley, finally, you fired. Get the hell out and stay out. My thoughts on the Chargers when y'all get back.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition, dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason.
Join the transporter to Hades.
Your butt and gut becomes one.
Join the reformer of hooker whores.
This is my daughter, Placenta Booty Johnson.
Join the bronze god.
Whenever you are in distress, take off your baseball cap and throw it in the air.
Join your very own superhero of broadcasting, Chris Bass.
So whatever color crayon they get, they palm it and do two circles, and that translates to, I can be the black people.
As he takes you through the week's paces in Baseline. Live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, Pacific Time Zone people, just stay asleep when this is on live and just catch the recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusively on the Chris Bass YouTube channel. Ready to hang with some fellas who know football? Let's ride. LC Muscles 28.
I think they're the most overrated defense in the league.
Steel Sermon.
We did not trail for a single second.
Tiny Tim.
McCarthy is a bonehead.
A Pistol 90.
I'm going with my boys. Fins up, baby.
Get ready for the Four Horsemen of Peckham's. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on YouTube.
Mister, how do you operate this Twitter thing or this Instagram thing or whatever the heck? You're supposed to know all this stuff. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
The incomparable Chris Bass. Booty! Sorry. Can't help it. Okay. 36 after the hour. And the San Diego Chargers, give me this button here, have finally done something. The mistake is not fully corrected, but they finally fired Brandon Staley. Finally. You know, I'm handing these out like candy. I may as well hand out one more. Hey, Chargers, take one of these. I begin with the question.
What in the all types of blue hell
Were you thinking when you hired Brendan Staley? Did you actually think that the analytics king would take your team somewhere? Did you actually think that? Why? What the hell were you what the hell were you thinking? Well, did you think Brandon Staley would turn into Eric Coryell or Bobby Ross, a coach that actually took them to a Super Bowl? Let me speak on the Chargers overall, okay? Let me speak on the Chargers overall. Y'all have sucked since you left San Diego. Since you
Shop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Like the Devils tonight in that one. 185 is probably a little bit tough for me. Maybe the goal and a half. We will look into it. Capitals on a back-to-back. They played the Penguins last night. And Toronto is on a back-to-back as well. They were in L.A. last night against the Kings. They go across the freeway to the Duck Pond, where Anaheim will be there for them. You're getting the Leafs minus a puck and a half at plus 110. That totals a flat 7, and that will go up, 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 and away for the Leafs and the Ducks tonight. So over 7 at plus 105 there. Leafs are minus 210 on the money line. So there you go. We even got the hockey in. As far as all these injury reports with the NFL that's happened really in the last hour that we haven't discussed, Waddle and Mostert didn't practice again for the Dolphins. Najee Harris didn't practice for the Steelers. Fitzpatrick was limited. Kamara didn't practice for the Saints. Remember, he left that game last week as well. Ryan Tannehill might start for the Titans because Will Levis was not.
Is football. High school, college, and pro football. There's one man set to bring it all to you. It's time for Just Football with Matt Emch. Matt was a first-time AP, all-offensive lineman with the Ursuline Irish and 3-time national champion with Youngstown State. And now, here's Matt.
And welcome to Just Football. I'm your host, Matt Emch. It's nice to be back, everybody. Yeah, I had another surgery number 28. I'm almost cracking 30. Everybody, I'll get it eventually. But I'm back. I'm happy to be back. I've missed being on the radio. Anybody that's here tonight, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We got some people got to be on the show tonight. In a couple minutes, we're going to have the coach, Bob Gessler, calling in. We're going to talk about Ohio State and with everybody tonight, talk about the Buckeyes. We're going to talk about, in fact, you know what? Let's just go right to the phone lines. We got Coach Bob Gessler on the line right now. How you doing, Coach?
Good, Matt. How's everything there? I hope you had a nice Christmas and New Year's. We did here. A little bit of sickness, but we got through it.
Yeah,
but
you know.
Other than that,
yeah, thank
it was
you.
good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was going to say thank you and same to you and yours. What's so weird, I was just talking about it with everybody else here. So many people are sick. It's just really kind of starting to freak me out again.
Yeah, I think it's just the warm, the cold, and it really hasn't been truly below, you're right around 28, 29 degrees. I don't even think it's got that cold. And so you're hanging around 30, 35. So it's kind of, and then again, Tuesday, I think they said to go up to 46. So it's kind of messing with everybody's system a little bit.
Yeah, it is. We had some, big games, obviously, the last couple weeks, and I missed some of them because, like I had said, I had surgery. And, one of the games that went on that, most people in the state of Ohio obviously care about is, what happened with Ohio State and Missouri. I think the whole country was basically shocked. In my opinion, yeah, they got 3 points, but in my opinion, for the Buckeyes, that's a shutout. What's your thoughts on that game, Coach?
Yeah, well, the problem lies is, the quarterback, starting quarterback opted out. So that wasn't there. And it's hard then to throw a second teamer in there. I mean, he's getting reps and everything, but then the problem with that is he gets hurt. So now you put a kid in that I think maybe had like 5 snaps throughout the season. And, how good you are at running and how good you are with that line. I think it's just kind of domino effect because they just it took the wind out of their sails. And you're right, Matt. I was expecting more from Ohio State, and they absolutely looked horrendous.
Yeah, they did. I understand the quarterback, situation. Let's all be honest, everybody. I don't think we really need to worry about finding a good quarterback at Ohio State. You're going to be getting some of the best in the country that are going to want to, play for the Buckeyes. You've got some young ones that might just be next man up, step up, and fill that hole and show that they were more ready than anybody expected their young butts to be. But
yeah.
Definitely a lot of hot seat talk with Ryan Day going on.
But again, here's the other thing that people overlooked. And I watched them play, I guess, 2 games. I'll tell you what, and our own Brad Smith from Cheney High School, alumnus there, so I kind of follow a little bit when I could see Missouri. They're a good football team. I'll tell you what, they are solid. So when Pat and Dave had our morning show, I always kind of sat in on it because I wanted to listen in. And my thing is I don't know about Ohio State because I think Mizzou could beat them because, again, I saw them playing. They are a tough team.
Yes,
now,
they are.
Did they I think they may estimated them. I really do. And I'll tell you what, Missouri came out and they could do no wrong. Their defense was tough. Their offense threw all over them. They ran the ball. I mean, they're for real. They were for real this year, and I think you're going to have to keep an eye on them. Ohio State, again, I don't think there's any worries. I don't like what's going on. Again, people sit out. Well, look what happened to Colt McCoy a few hundred years ago when he got hurt in the championship game. He didn't come back, and that's the reason. But I don't know. I just can't get over what they're doing in college football with the portals and these guys could all sit out when they want. And I just football is changing, and I'm not a big fan of it.
I'm glad you said that. You and I both come from the old school days of, you make a point to commit to a program, high school, college, whoever, to a coach, to a group of young men that you are brothers with throughout the season. And then all of a sudden they need you at the most, serious time. A bowl game is a big deal, regardless if you miss the BCS playoffs. Now let's all remember that this is the last year we got 4. So next year, Ohio State would have been in it. But, you still are leaving your brothers, with their butts in the wind. And I don't like that personally. I understand where people are coming from. It's a different time, but again, you and I come from the time where you make a commitment, you fulfill that commitment. I agree with you. I don't think Ohio State needs to worry. You got one of the top 5 programs in the country. You got people calling for the head of one of the best coaches in the country. The guy's doing an amazing job. He had a young quarterback. He's got a young team. He's going to get great players. They keep having year in, year out, top 3 best recruiting class in the country. They're going to be fine. Now, did they lose to Michigan 3 years in a row? That's a big no-no. Yeah. Missouri's also in the SEC. You know, let's not forget that. They're in one of the best programs or the best conferences in the country. They're not in the Big 12 anymore. They're playing with much better programs in the SEC.
Yeah. And then with people moving around and stuff, you know, some people say, okay, go here, go there. My question is why did the Ohio State quarterback end up going to Syracuse? I was kind of confused on that. Mm-hmm. Was it about the money and what he's getting ended? I mean, I question that a little bit.
I do too. Well, let's move on from the Buckeyes and let's jump to the big boy games, so to speak. You know, we had the Rose Bowl. You know, we had some picks going on. We had it going on with Mark Mean's show last time I was on, and then a couple weeks ago you were on, and Jim and some other guys. You know, we all talked about our picks for the bowls. And, you know, the one thing I have to remember to say, I did pick Alabama in a really close one, but I did say I would not be surprised if Michigan won, because it is my opinion. It was then that day when we all spoke, and it's my opinion even now. They are the most balanced team in the country. I was not surprised that they won that game, and they really dominated in many different forms, except for that third phase, the special teams. They better clean that up quick.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is what really, as I saw, again, you're a lineman. I was a line coach most of my career. Even when I was a head coach, I always watched over the linemen. And you know this, Matt, playing football. I don't care what offense you're running. If you fumble the ball and the ball is low and you take that second to throw the play timing off, you'll go nowhere. And that is what was hurting the Alabama in drives on the goal line. He fumbled it, and he had no choice but to try to pick it up and run in the middle, because there was no room there. You could have went outside, it would have been there. But again, the mistake was, and you can't blame the center because you don't know what's going on there. But as we say, when you center the ball, that's your first job. Then you worry about blocking. But to be honest with you, the center and guard, they couldn't block that D tackle.
No.
He was in the backfield more than anything. So, again, as much as I hate to say it, because I am not a Michigan fan, but right now, they are the number one team to beat. And I'll tell you what, I think Washington could give them a good game, but boy, they got to be stout up front, because if they're not, and they get into a running and passing game where they're not balanced, they could be in deep trouble, and it could be a bad game for them.
I agree 100%. You know, Coach Harbaugh, you know, a lot of people give him flack. The guy did a great job at Stanford. He went to San Francisco. What did he do? Take him to the Super Bowl. What has he done with Michigan? He's beating Ohio State consistently, and he's just in the national championship this year. He's in a playoff last year. Everybody thought they had a better team last year. Well, I disagree. Their team this year is better. Obviously, that offensive line, all 5 of those guys are going to go to the NFL. That defensive lineman, every bit as good as the young man that went to Detroit. And yes, he was causing headaches all day. You know, my wife and I were watching that last play. They lined up. I said, they run this, they're losing this game. And they ran. Yeah. They should not have run that ball. But it was a great Rose Bowl. What a comeback for Michigan. That was historic. That last series. Oh, yes. My God. What a great series.
I mean, now, again, I don't know what they were doing. Did they get out, as they say, more of a prevent defense from taking the long ball? But you know what? Then you're going to get caught up underneath. And I know that because I witnessed something back in the day at 50-yard line, upper deck, when I watched somebody take a drive from the 2-yard line and drive all the way down the field because we were in a prevent defense. And that was John Elway against the Cleveland Browns, because he absolutely torched us, because we don't want to give up any big plays, but we gave everything underneath, and that's what was happening. I mean, Michigan gouged them with everything, and there were some balls that should have been caught, and then receivers came down with some amazing catches to keep that drive alive.
Yeah, it was a great, I mean, one for the record books. Both games were phenomenal, and I agree with you, you know, on the situation with, you know, with Washington. You know, Texas gave them all that they could. They just, their quarterback, their receiving core, their offense is phenomenal. Their defense is much more stout than people give them credit for. But unless they are really perfect, I agree with you. I think Michigan will win the national championship, and they'll get it outright, because last time in '97, that bull crap about having to split it with Nebraska was just ridiculous.
That's how do you do that? You're absolutely right. But I want to tell you something. Texas team was a good team. They did what they needed to do all year. They were kind of under the radar, silent. They really weren't. But I'll tell you what, Washington came out to play, and I'll tell you what, if you were going to pick a team to play Michigan, and again, I could be wrong, who knows, but I think they would have that team will give Michigan the better game in the championship game. I believe that, but we'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, we will. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the way that game is going to go is we're probably going to go all the way to the fourth quarter, and then I think that offensive line for Michigan and that running game is going to start wearing down that smaller defensive line, and it's going to be the same situation that happened with Alabama. That J.J. McCarthy is just phenomenal. His speed is incredible. The kid is a great passer. Hey, how funny. Everybody complained about Florida State getting ripped off. What happened to Florida State in their bowl?
I'll tell you what. That was an absolute take you out to the woodshed.
Yes.
That was horrendous. But again, I understand it's about the money and it's the ratings. I get it. I understand that. I'm still against that, because that's all it was about. They had the better record. I get the teams that got in there. It was a great showing and everything, but I don't know. I'm glad we're going to what we are next year.
Oh, me
because
too. That's
what's fair. We've been complaining about this for the last umpteen years. The one that back in the day was when BYU won the national championship, when they handed it to them, when Notre Dame was unbelievable, and they gave it to BYU. And I was sick. I couldn't believe it.
And again, bring up the 97. How the hell do you split a national championship between Nebraska and Michigan? How do you do that?
Yep. Well, again, that's the people who are picking it. And that's what's sad. Absolutely.
Well, let's move on real quick. Let's jump to, we got an FCS national championship next week. We got South Dakota State. Man, the Dakotas are pumping out great teams. You got the Grizz.
Everything.
Yes.
Good Lord.
They're going to be representing the second year in a row, defending national champs, South Dakota State Jackrabbits versus the Grizz, who knocked off, by the way, North Dakota State in a double overtime game. Who you got in that one, Coach?
I watched both of those, and I got to see South Dakota when the Jackrabbits came down and played YSU. Let me tell you, that is a strong football team.
They are.
Oh, I think that they have too many weapons. I think that they could do just about anything that they want to do. So, again, I saw both teams, but I'll tell you what, the Jackrabbits, they are loaded, and they're good. You're going to see some of them guys, if not a lot of them, in the NFL, the ones that are coming out, because I'll tell you what, they can do it. They really can. But there's some good players there.
I agree. Hey, Coach, before we go, real quick, if you could pick two teams to go to the Super Bowl right now, who would you pick?
Well, I've got to pick it's got to be the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
I think that they're the unsung heroes, but I think 49ers, they're going to get their stuff together. So we'll see.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, Coach Bob. We'll talk to you next time.
You got it, Matt. Take care. God bless.
Find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hi, it's Brian. Join me and my co-host Todd as we investigate those things that go bump in the night. We'll talk to real people who have had real face-to-face encounters.
There's two of them across the creek at the big rocks.
With cryptid beings, from Bigfoot to aliens to even demons. By the end, you'll be asking, do I believe? Cryptid creatures. Find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you tired of settling for mediocre wings at sky-high prices? Belleria Niles has some of the best wing prices in Trumbull County, with 12 wings for $10, with over 15 flavors to choose from. Mention this show, Just Football with Matt Emch, with your order and receive a free cheese puff until January 31st. Bellaria at 602 Robbins Avenue, Niles, Ohio. 330-544-FOOD. That's 330-544-FOOD. Bellaria, we sell taste one bite at a time.
Do you crave mysteries? Are you fascinated by the unexplained? Then summon your courage and plunge into the deep, dark abyss of what lurks beneath. A YouTube channel that dives into the unexplained, the supernatural, eyewitness reports, and more. The real question is, can you handle the truth? Simply search What Lurks Beneath on YouTube, if you think you're brave enough.
From high school to the pros and everything in between, you're listening to City View Sportscast, part of the iMedia One network.
And welcome back to Just Football. I'm your host, Matt Emch, and we're going to jump right back on the line. We got our own Jim Craven. How you doing, Jim?
Outstanding. Lots of great football over the weekend and plenty more to come.
Yeah, plenty more. Thank you for calling in. You know, me and Coach Bob, obviously, you are helping run things tonight. Thank you. And you know about the Buckeyes, obviously, with what happened. I want your take on that game that happened between them and the Tigers.
That was the saddest Ohio State game I've ever witnessed in my life, to be quite honest.
Agreed.
Once these teams are no longer in the playoffs, the fact that everybody sits out, you start to, you look around and you say, who is that guy? I believe Mark Means calls that roster time. When we're having we're seeing the diminishment of these bowl games, and things that we really look forward to now are just kind of an exhibition to some guys. So it's a little disappointing they sit out. I get it. I understand the business aspect of it. But nonetheless, I come from a time when, your team, you go with your team all the way to the end. You go as far as you can go. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case here in Ohio State. That was a hard game to watch for a Buckeye team that we know has got way more talent than that.
Yeah, they do. And, I understand, like Coach Bob brought up, their quarterback, left to go to Syracuse. I do question, like he did, as to what the real reasons were. Maybe there's somebody, next man up that is barking a little bit, maybe that, we don't know about in-house that might have been coming to nip at his heels, so to speak. And maybe that's why he's heading out the door. I don't know. You don't know what you look at today with, unfortunately, social media and all of the negatives that can come with it, and how fans rip up players these days. You don't know how hard he was taking things from fans. 3 years losing to Michigan, definitely not what the Buckeye fans are used to these days.
No, and I think for McCord, I honestly believe, aside from any other information provided, that the spotlight was too big for him. That's a big responsibility when you're the quarterback of the Ohio State Buckeyes. And when you can't pull off that win against Michigan, I mean, there's, people out there start to question it. Ryan Day has got, I believe, 8 losses in his entire career at Ohio State. And they're talking about replacing him because he can't beat Michigan.
Isn't that unbelievable?
So, yeah, I mean, if you or I were coaching and we only had 8 losses in so many years, we would be legends. At Ohio State, it's another story, and I'm sure the alumni and money folks are probably going to be a little bit upset about that. I mean, you look at the game against Missouri, and granted, again, this wasn't the team we saw all year, but when you go 2 for 15 on third down, you're not really going to get anywhere. Where Missouri, not much better. They were 4 of 16 on third down, but they were 3 of 3 on fourth down, so they extended more of their drives. And once Devin Brown went down, kind of as much as you would hope that he would step in and we'd find that diamond in the rough, he just really, really had a bad time that night.
Yeah, it was just a bad time all around for Buckeye fans, and it's just a shame. I remember looking at one of these reports, about Ohio State football. I think it said something like Ryan Day can no longer be defended. go back to what you just said. I wish that we could talk to get that plugged in, what you just said a couple minutes ago, to all the sports fans in America right now. 8 losses, people. Yes. Is it important to beat Michigan? Yes. Do I think they'll get back to it? I do. Does Ryan Day need fired? Hell no. He doesn't need fired. And then on the flip side of things, moving over to, what's going on with the BCS. Yes, we'll start talking about those games here in a minute. But what I find hilarious, before Jim Harbaugh can even accept the trophy for winning the Rose Bowl, the talk already starts about him maybe leaving to go to the NFL. What about that one?
Wow, there's some attractive jobs out there for him right now, and I could think that maybe I keep wanting to say the San Diego Chargers, but the LA Chargers could be a good landing spot for him, and I think they're willing to spend the money. Now, the question is, will Michigan outbid them? And I think right now that's a distinct possibility. I think that Michigan's willing to drop some money on just the fact he's won the last 3 years against Ohio State. He's in the national championship. They are where they wanted to be.
Right.
And it's going to cost them to keep them there.
And it should. You know what they wanted? They have been looking for, how many times over the years have we heard they need a Michigan man in there to coach and do the Michigan thing? Winningest football program in college football history still. And they are in it now, much like the Massillon Tigers had the opportunity to finally shut people up, get that grill off their back of just having their named state championships all these years, to finally win one themselves and get a real one. They did that. Now, Michigan has won ones in the past, but the last one that they quote unquote won in 97, they had to share what a bunch of bull with Nebraska. Those two should have been made to play. They could be getting one all by themselves. So they had a heck of a game. That was definitely one for the history books. Your thought on Alabama, Michigan?
It was the game that I thought it was going to be. It was going to be a little bit of a chess match there between Harbaugh and Saban. And make no mistake, Alabama's a good team, despite any losses they might have had. But Michigan is a better team this year. And you could see it just in the swagger, the attitude. They come on the field with how physical they were. That was what was impressive. They would deliver a shot and they would run through the blocks. They would run through the tackles, and that really made the difference. Some of the small technical things you really didn't see from Alabama all year with the snap center quarterback exchange, things of that effect, kind of certainly on that last play was, affected them. But Michigan just right now has that confidence, and you can just tell when they played Ohio State, it wasn't on the other side. So, again, and it goes in cycles. Ohio State, how many did they win in a row? Michigan's on the other side of that right now. So, again, it's a cyclical thing, and hopefully Ryan Day can get it together. There's some rumors of a certain quarterback transferring from Washington State, so we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, it's going to be, an interesting matchup. Since you just mentioned Washington, that other game, let's talk about the Texas and Washington game.
And a game that I thought it was going to be. Washington is a very sound team. I think Texas is getting to the point now where they wanted to be. They've struggled for several years. Washington, I think, is just not extraordinary at every position. I think they play well as a team. I think they're well coached. And but if you're a Vegas guy, you got to think you're coming in as the underdog against Michigan because we've seen what Michigan has done to everybody all year long, and Washington's got an uphill battle on that. Right,
and it's going to be a tough one for Washington. Just like I said to Coach Gessler, you got Michigan who was coming in. They just looked phenomenal against Alabama. As I said, we all had our talk a couple weeks ago. Most balanced team in the country. They are just going to be so hard to beat in 4 quarters. I just think, and I'm going to repeat what I said a little bit ago with Coach Bob, I think it's going to be a 3 and a half quarter war, and then that O-line's going to take over. That running game's going to do basically the same thing that they did to Alabama, and the defense, I think, will just be too much for Washington. He's going to be running for his life all night.
Yeah, and you know as well as anybody in those championship games, if you can get through that first half of the first quarter, maybe even through the whole first quarter, let that adrenaline wear off a little bit, settle in, don't let the moment be too big for you. And I think once it gets to that point, and Michigan's focused more on football than they are the anxiety and the excitement of it, I think they take that game over. And maybe into halftime, I can't see it being much closer than that coming certainly in the middle of the third quarter and on.
Yeah, it definitely will. Moving to let's talk about that other championship game that's coming up too, the FCS. It should be no less talked about. You got 2 great games that led up to this. You had the Jackrabbits getting back to the national championship for the FCS. And then you had the Grizz, and not many people gave them much of a shot. They thought it was going to be, another, all Dakota national championship. And the Grizz ended up beating North Dakota State, perennial national championship winner, in double overtime. What do you think about that one?
Well, you wondered how long North Dakota was going to stay in that top spot for all the years that they were. And when they do get replaced, it's only to be replaced by the team from South Dakota. So, I mean, it's impressive. I'll say that much. I don't know what they're doing up there in the Dakotas, but certainly I'd like to grab a little bit of that and bring that back to Ohio State there and show them how to get it done. But
it's incredible.
Yeah, well, and hey, you know what? Beautiful country, but I don't know if there's much else to do there other than play football. So,
I think everybody in the country is just absolutely just blown away at the recruiting job they're doing. And let's not forget, if you look at their rosters, a lot of their guys are from in-state. So their coaching staffs are just doing a tremendous job there.
Oh, certainly. But and you look at the programs like the Florida States, the Notre Dames, where you can sell that to an 18-year-old football player. What do you sell in North and South Dakota? It's cold.
Right, right.
Other than North Dakota, hey, we got a dome. But I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's hard to sell that area where neither state has even a professional team in it.
Right.
So to pluck that talent from their area and to develop that, make it homegrown, that makes it even more special for them.
I agree.
We know that as YSU fans.
Absolutely. Real quick before you go, if you could pick 2 NFL teams to be going to the Super Bowl right now, who would it be?
My wish would be Cleveland and Detroit.
All right. Thanks for calling in, Jim. As always, a pleasure.
Are you tired of settling for mediocre wings at sky-high prices? Belleria Niles has some of the best wing prices in Trumbull County, with 12 wings for $10 with over 15 flavors to choose from. Mention this show, Just Football with Matt Emch, with your order and receive a free cheese puff until January 31st. Belleria at 602 Robbins Avenue, Niles, Ohio, 330-544-FOOD. That's 330-544-FOOD. Belleria, we sell taste one bite at a time.
Do you crave mysteries? Are you fascinated by the unexplained? Then summon your courage and plunge into the deep, dark abyss of what lurks beneath. A YouTube channel that dives into the unexplained, the supernatural, eyewitness reports, and more. The real question is, can you handle the truth? Simply search What Lurks Beneath on YouTube, if you think you're brave enough.
In the Valley, football is king, and the Mahoning Valley Federals are looking to build the 2024 roster with talent forged in this area to compete for a Tri-Point Football League championship. If you're 18 and older and looking to return to the gridiron, call General Manager John Galbraith at 330-540-1099 or visit the team on Facebook at Mahoning Valley Federals Developmental Football. The Mahoning Valley Federals, honoring the football tradition in the Valley. From high school to the pros and everything in between, you're listening to City View Sportscast, part of the iMedia One network.
And welcome back to Just Football. I'm your host, Matt Emch. We are again going right to the lines. We have Ryan Bonacci on the line, a fellow Ursuline grad. Ryan, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Matt, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. It's been a while since I've had the opportunity to talk to you. How's the family? Have a good holiday?
Family's good. Holiday was great.
Awesome.
Kids were like Tasmanian devils. So.
I'm sure. I don't have the young one anymore. She's 16 going on 21 right now. But yeah, I remember those days. But it's awesome to have you here. I always love being able to, talk with especially, guys that I went to school with and that know the game well. And, I want to talk to you about, let's talk about the end of that high school football season. Let's start with obviously our alma mater with how Ursuline. What's your thoughts on the end of that season for them?
Well, yeah, obviously a great season with a disappointing end. The coaching staff there at Ursuline, just like the coaching staff over how many years now, always produces, great student athletes and always produces great football for its fans and its alumni. But that game was a very hard fought game. You got to give it to Chardon. They really run that option offense very well. And when you have a team that runs those offenses well, they're hard to slow down and stop. And, Ursuline made the adjustments they needed to make and, got a couple bad breaks here and there. But all in all, a really great season. And, really the only thing that matters at the end of the day is you beat that school from the other side of the river. But I anticipate Ursuline will come back stronger and better next season. They've got a lot of great tests coming up on the upcoming season for 2024, and really proved themselves well, I think, on the field this past football season.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, it was extremely disappointing. I agree. I thought that they were going to take care of business with Chardon. You got to play mistake free in the playoffs. They had some turnovers. They made some mistakes and gave the ball up on their own side of the field. You can't do that, especially, the deeper you get. But I agree with you. I mean, the program that, Coach Reardon has there is one of the best in the state. And I think in the country, one of the best high school programs. And, they'll be back. They'll be fine. Your thoughts on some of the other schools that did well? A lot of people didn't expect schools like, I covered all of Mineral Ridge's games this year. They went first time ever school history. Sorry, had a little mouth break there. School history going to the third round of the playoffs there.
Well, yeah, no, it's so great to see so many of these local schools, making deep run into the playoffs, especially when they haven't before. And Mineral Ridge has done a very nice job with their program over the years, and they've produced some great athletes that have, gone on to be major contributors at, some of the colleges around us. So, a lot of great things coming from the area and a lot of great athletes and students. So, really exciting things to see happen. Look at the resurgence of football in Mobile. It was, kind of down for many, many years, from the, great run they had back in the mid to late 90s. And then, just, the last two seasons making deep run into the playoffs. JFK, bringing that program back to, to its historical, excuse me, I'm sorry. It must have caught your disease. But
It happens.
But it's in Mooney, when we all laugh and joke and we all give each other grief that 1 week out of the year. But even they've done a great job. Austin Town, South Range, Canfield. A lot of these programs are really building strong foundations with their athletes, especially with some of these schools that are having the hindsight and the intelligence to start down in the lower levels with the same playbook as the older kids are running. So by the time these kids are coming through the ranks, they get into their junior, senior years in high schools, that playbook's like breathing for them, and then that produces great success. So a lot of great things in the area, and very proud of the schools in the area for how deep they're running into the playoffs. And we always laugh and we joke about it, but it always feels like every single year that it's, the state of Ohio versus the Youngstown area.
It-
So I
it-
mean, everyone always roots against the teams from the valley.
I agree with you. That was so well put and well said. You look at you brought up. I actually helped coach that team of Louisville back in the mid '90s after I was done at YSU, and they had great programs, and now they are just a perennial powerhouse. Coach Shaner, is doing a great job, as you mentioned, and I brought up Mineral Ridge. Ian Erb might be ended up walking on it as a preferred player at YSU. I hope that happens. He'll be a great addition to the Penguins. And, then you have the Bayek, father-son tandem over at Struthers. They went deeper than anybody gave them. Any chance for, you brought up JFK. I have to say this. I have a little raw feelings about it. Obviously I didn't go there, but you had Coach Prologo there that stepped in after Coach Bayek did such a great job there, won a state championship. What did Coach Prologo do? Oh, he only went to 2 state championships. Yes, he lost to New Bremen, but they ran the guy out of there. Then they're 2-8. Not always greener on the other side.
No, and it's a lot of times people think that, and you have things that happen, and none of us will probably ever really know the true story of what happened there. But Dom is such a great coach, and I think that was plain to see by his departure, and then you had several athletes who left and went to other schools.
Right.
And then you saw what happened this year with their program. So I mean, who knows what truly went down? I know Dom is a fantastic guy and a great coach. But I mean, you could see it right there. The fruits of their labor. They go 2-8.
Agreed. Well, let's move on to the next level. We had some big games, obviously. I've asked the last 2 guys this question. Before we start with the playoffs, your thoughts on the Ohio State debacle with Missouri in the bowl?
Well, and I mean, I think the transfer portal has ruined college football. And I mean, I understand, having played college football myself, not at that kind of level, but playing, at a Division II school. I understand, what it takes, what a toll it takes on you, both physically and mentally, both trying to keep up with the academics and, your commitment to athletics. But, the transfer portal has just kind of really diminished it. I mean, the players like Harrison and, I mean, me being a big Notre Dame fan, and we lost half of our roster to, entering in the NFL draft.
Right.
I mean, those guys wanting to sit out, I completely understand that. They have worked hard, and in essence, their body has become their investment. But some of these folks that have sat out because of the transfer portal and whatnot, I think you're seeing the final days of a true college football. Now it's just about chasing money and I don't know if I would call it a debacle for the Ohio State game. I mean, there were some signs of greatness. They'll bounce back because it is Ohio State,
of course.
But I mean, those things like that, and you can't take anything from Missouri. They played very hard. The great running back, who really came from a background in the history where he didn't think he'd be playing, and then all of a sudden he finds himself the starting running back and rushing all over the place and scoring many touchdowns. I mean, you'd like to see those things happen. People get rewarded for their hard work and dedication, but I mean, it just comes right down to it. I think Missouri made the adjustments at halftime that needed to be made, and unfortunately, Ohio State going to their third string quarterback, a true freshman, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. And the line play wasn't the greatest. You started getting some running yards, rushing yards towards the end out of your back. But when you're missing those big weapons like they had all season long, and then you have the continuity of players entering the transfer portal, going for the draft, that's not enough time to try and get a team back and on the same pace. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's unfortunate. I hate to see a home state school lose, but they'll be back.
They will, and and we've said this too. How ridiculous it is to have a guy like Ryan Day with 8 losses in his career as Ohio State's coach to be on the hot seat right now. It's just absolutely pathetic.
Well, and I mean, I think at any level, especially when you are at a school that is rich in history and tradition, especially a tradition of winning. people have certain expectations. I have no issues with Ryan Day. I think he's a very good coach. But I don't think people quite understand how difficult it is at times, to ask Ryan Day and his staff to put together a complete ensemble after, quarterback in the transfer portal, a couple of players declare themselves for the draft. That's a tall task for anyone to take on. I'm not even sure, Bear Bryant or Lombardi would have been able to do such a thing, get a team, on pace and have a fantastic showing. I think the showing that they had was accurate with what they had to work with. You come in with your backup quarterback, things might have been humming during practice and then injury happened. And now you have a freshman quarterback who I think maybe took all of 6 snaps all season long, trying to efficiently and effectively run an offense. But, folks need to just breathe and understand that, coaching, especially at the collegiate level, is not as easy as it looks. Or it might seem.
Agreed. Well put, well said. Moving to the 2 games of the weekend. First, your thoughts real quick on the Michigan-Alabama game.
Oh, I think that was such a great game. And, we could take the politics out of, this whole, conversation about, well, the college football playoffs and this team got left out and that team should never have been in there. And that didn't matter. What we had was great football, for 2 games. And, you can't really ask for much more than that as a true fan of the game. But, you got to give Michigan credit where it is due. Harbaugh and his staff have done a great job of going out recruiting, getting players specific for their system that makes the system run at a high level, and getting the most out of every single player he has on that field. That defense was just flying around. Excuse me, and they really wanted that game. And then the offense, their rushing game was phenomenal. I think a lot of people were wondering, how that running attack was going to do against, Alabama, who traditionally always has, whether it's 1 loss or 2 loss, they always have players that are going to the NFL draft in the first and second round for that defensive line and linebacking core. So, Michigan, I think deserves a lot of credit, and so does Alabama. Getting into that game is not an easy task, and that was just a great game to watch and good football. And McCarthy deserves a lot of credit. He made the right reads, the check downs. He made great decisions. All in all, just a fantastic game to watch.
I cannot agree with you anymore. I've been saying this for weeks. Most balanced team in the country. My pick to win the national championship. Your thoughts on the Texas-Washington matchup?
I think we saw with Phoenix what everyone already knew. He was a fantastic player. And I think he went out there with a lot of things to prove. 1, to put, Washington into the national championship game. But 2, maybe to prove some of the naysayers wrong that didn't vote for him for that Heisman. Maybe those people are second guessing themselves now, a couple days after the game. But you can't take anything away from Washington either. Their defense played well. They got production out of the defensive line, who isn't, I would say a predominantly sack-driven team or squad. But, they got pressure on the quarterback. They did well. The Texas quarterback, it took him a while to get warmed up. When he did, my goodness, then they give us an exciting game down the stretch. Okay. So, yeah. And it just, and who knows, maybe that spark of them, threatening to put Arch Manning in the game was enough for, that quarterback to wake up a little bit and get a little chip on his shoulder. But, what a fantastic finish to both of those schools. And, real interested to see how this Washington-Michigan game lines up.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they both were couldn't have gotten any better. The ratings were fabulous, obviously for having the games, but just as a fan of the game, both of us ex-players, I was extremely happy just with the games themselves. In the national championship themselves, who do you got?
Well, it's you hear all the time, and it was even funny sitting around the household, with my family and extended family with the in-laws. We can't root for Michigan. And as a diehard Notre Dame fan, it's hard to.
I'm right with you.
This doesn't factor into it at all, but I think I like Washington over Michigan. I think we saw a lot of passion, a lot of emotion coming from Washington. But this could be Michigan's year as well. They've shored up the things that they need to shore up where they fell short the last 2 seasons. But I for whatever reason, my gut's telling me I think it's going to be Washington.
I love the pick. And before we go to break, Ryan, could you, if you had to pick the two teams for the Super Bowl right now, who would you pick?
Well, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of boos and some eye rolls out of this, but I'm a Cleveland Brown fan for my life. I'm going to go Browns and Lions.
All right. They love it. Thank you for being here, Ryan. Have a great night, sir.
Thanks, you too.
Ryan Bonacci, thank you very much for being here. You're listening to Just Football. I'm your host, Matt Emch. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of settling for mediocre wings at sky-high prices? Belleria Niles has some of the best wing prices in Trumbull County, with 12 wings for $10 with over 15 flavors to choose from. Mention this show, Just Football with Matt Emch, with your order and receive a free cheese puff until January 31st. Belleria at 602 Robbins Avenue, Niles, Ohio. 330-544-FOOD. That's 330-544-FOOD. Belleria, we sell taste one bite at a time.
In the Valley, football is king, and the Mahoning Valley Federals are looking to build the 2024 roster with talent forged in this area to compete for a Tri-Point Football League championship. If you're 18 and older and looking to return to the gridiron, call General Manager John Galbraith at 330-540-1099 or visit the team on Facebook at Mahoning Valley Federals Developmental Football. The Mahoning Valley Federals, honoring the football tradition in the Valley.
Painting your house today. SNK Painting your house.
SNK Painting provides exceptional painting and refinishing services to the Mahoning Valley and surrounding communities by being an industry leader in our field, focusing on customer service and delivering extraordinary results. We offer interior and exterior painting, and we specialize in cabinet refinishing with affordable cabinet solutions. Call SNK Painting for your free estimate at 330-505-1910.
SNK Painting your house today.
From high school to the pros and everything in between, you're listening to City View Sportscast, part of the iMedia One network.
And welcome back to Just Football. I'm your host, Matt Emch. And this is a show of going straight to the phone lines. Now I get to bring in my partner, Lipper, Matt Lipsack. How you doing, Matthew?
Good, Matthew. How are you?
I'm doing well. We have been obviously talking about all of the big games over the weekend. I know that, first and foremost, what we're going to talk about is what is most important with you right now. That is hockey. That is the Youngstown Phantoms. But we had some big games over the weekend, too, that we'll jump into. But let's jump into that Youngstown Phantom team. How are they doing?
So the Phantoms wrapped up December with, I believe, a 4-2-1 record. They fell down to third place, but I think they're only like 4 points out of first. Of course, in the USHL, 6 teams make the playoffs, so 1 and 2 get that first round bye. So really, you want that home ice advantage. You want to win the conference, but getting the first round bye in the playoffs just as important. Phantoms' most recent games this past weekend were up in Muskegon. Phantoms lost the first game back from the Christmas break on the 29th by the score of 8-5, and then fell in overtime on Saturday by the score of 5-4. And they will be back home actually starting tomorrow, and then Friday for a pair of game against the Omaha Lancers. Puck drop both nights is at 7:05.
Now, how do these teams look? Obviously the Phantoms getting ready for, maybe getting another Clark Cup championship. Not only how do they look and their chances at that, but what about some of these other teams that they're going to be facing?
So the opponent for this weekend, Omaha, is in last place in the league. The Phantoms have a very good chance if they play their game and don't play down to the level of their competition, have a very good chance to get out of the Cavilli Center with 2 positive results this weekend. A couple of teams that the Phantoms haven't played, who they're going to be battling for playoff position and then, could be facing down the road in the playoffs. The Dubuque Fighting Saints have not made their way to the Cavilli Center as of yet. The Green Bay Gamblers have not made their way to the Cavilli Center as of yet. Those are the 2 teams above the Phantoms in the Eastern Conference standings right now. And then the opponent from last year's Clark Cup final that the Phantoms swept out of that championship series. The Fargo Force, there's something like 25-3-1. So 25-3-1, I believe, is their record on the season. I think they have 51 points. So they have come out of the gate very strong here in the 2023-2024 season, and they are almost running away with the Western Conference. But once the playoffs happen, crazy things have been known to occur.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to play the games, and that's why we do it. So hopefully they will take care of business like they did last year. I mean, what is your opinion? Just as and now obviously your opinion matters more than most. I mean, you call the games for the Phantoms. I mean, seeing you're obviously paying attention to some of these other teams that are ahead of them right now in terms of better records and in where they're seated at the moment. What do you think, just from the eye test, that the Phantoms look compared to them?
When the Phantoms played their game, they passed the eye test. The last weekend before Christmas, missing 4 of their, top probably 6 skaters due to an international tournament. They were off playing with Team USA at a tournament up in Canada. They ended up winning the bronze medal. The Phantoms swept the U18s. They are part of Team USA for a reason. Those are supposed to be the best U18 hockey players in the United States, and Youngstown ran them out of the building 2 nights in a row, 5-3 scores both times. And I think we proved then, that really, when the Phantoms are on, no team in this league can skate with us. So I mean that's really just the beginning, the middle, and the end of it. We're our own worst enemy.
Right.
So there's I don't think that on any given night, if the Phantoms are on, there is a team in this league that can beat us.
Well, I've seen them twice this year, and they just are full of amazing talent. I love getting to see, from behind the scenes, them getting ready for their matchup against Team USA. And that was just an amazing game for my first hockey game in history. So good luck to the Youngstown Phantoms. I have to bring up one college football game. Obviously you're a Penn State fan. Your thoughts on the Ole Miss Bowl?
Obviously the Penn State offense just couldn't get anything going. Obviously, freshman quarterback, has a full, 10, 11 games under his belt now, but still would have hoped to have seen a little bit more out of the Penn State offense. And on the vaunted Penn State defense, there's something about Big Ten versus SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, as well as I do that sometimes those offenses can just make a Big Ten defense look foolish.
They can, unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword. Big Ten took care of business against Alabama, but me being a Ohio State and Notre Dame fan, you being a Penn State fan, Michigan, that was just a double-edged sword. But your thoughts real quick on that game between Alabama and Michigan.
It was a highly entertaining football game. Obviously, both games. Highly entertaining, coming down right to the very last play in both of them. What else can we have asked for from our college football playoffs? Just a pair of highly entertaining football games.
No, I mean, looking at that game, did you watch the entire Michigan Alabama game, or was it just kind of as you had time, you were watching it as it went?
I had the game on the whole time.
Now you obviously have your hands full. You got 2 young children.
The game was on the whole time, but I was playing dad during part of it.
Hey, you got to take care of business. In fact, before I go any further, how was the holidays for you and your house?
It was wonderful. There were times that it looked like a tornado had gone through the house because of just the massive amounts of wrapping paper and cardboard, and really it looked like a natural disaster in my living room. But the kids got spoiled, and I think they did have a really good time.
Well, good, and they deserve it. And you have 2 amazing, gorgeous children. And I'm not hearing anything tonight, strangely enough, but that's all right. But
the kids are upstairs.
Okay.
In the living room. I'm sitting down in my office. You actually caught me right as I'm about to go. Build a snowblower.
Well, hey, you got to take care of business there as well. We got a couple more minutes left. Did you catch any of that Washington, Texas game?
I caught most of the first half. The second half, I was kind of in and out. Obviously, went late into the night. I did, pay pretty close attention to that last drive, and it did not look great for the Washington Huskies. But then, obviously, defense coming up big at the end.
You cannot ask more, as Ryan Bonacci and I were just talking about before you came on. Love or hate either of those four teams. You couldn't have asked for better bowl games. The playoffs were amazing. They were both just absolutely down to the wire. Great football. You're going to get an excellent national championship. Who do you got winning the national, by the way, Matt?
I think I have to go with Michigan. I don't know that, even though obviously they struggled a little bit in pass coverage, and that's where Washington's going to do a lot of their damage. I don't know if Washington's just going to be able to, in the trenches, handle Michigan for 4 quarters.
Yeah, I love hearing that out of my partner. You're learning, my friend. I agree 100%. As I've said to other people on the show tonight, Coach Bob, Jim, and Ryan, I'm going to say with you too, I think it's going to be a close game all the way into the fourth quarter. I just think like what usually happens when you have an overly dominating offensive line like Michigan has, all 5 of those guys are going to go to the NFL. They're just going to be too much for that defensive line to handle. And then they're just going to start ramming the ball down their throat and milking that clock. And we know what happens when that occurs. Finishing up here, Matthew, with the FCS National Championship, South Dakota State and Montana, you got a winner in that one.
I did not watch a single South Dakota State game this year. I did catch a little bit of the Montana game, the back end of it, and what a finish that was. Obviously, the 2-point conversion getting intercepted there to end that game. But I'm just going to go ahead and go with the Jackrabbits. They have been a juggernaut all season long, and I don't see any reason why that would not continue.
I agree with you. I think it should be a good first half. The second half is going to be all Jackrabbits. And then, like I've asked every other guest, if you could pick the 2 teams that would be in the Super Bowl, if it was right now, who would be those 2 teams?
Probably San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
There you go.
The Chiefs have looked mortal this year, but I don't know how much faith I have in anybody else in the AFC.
All right, well, there you go. I hope for, even though being a Steeler fan, that the Browns can finally make it for those Browns fans. Matt, as always, it's a pleasure, my brother. We'll talk to you later.
Take it easy, Matt.
All right, bye-bye. You're listening to Just Football. I'm your host, Matt Emch. We'll see you next week, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good night.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. You can make a difference by dropping off a hot meal and saying a quick hello. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend,